Record. Hello, David Adelman, also known as the People's Lawyer. How are you? You were looking great today. I was just saying, I love your top. And then you went in to describe yourself. Tell me more. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Yeah, good to speak with you again. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I've had a bit of a dodgy summer. I lost a parent in June, so that
Oh,
wasn't a good age, but still, when a parent dies, it rips part of your soul out for a little while. But I'm back, firing on not all cylinders, but most cylinders. And as you commented on the that jacket, it's the hippie, so it's the relaxed mode. And then this is the beauty of working from home. You can dress however you like.
is this not normally your attire then? Because I would not put you in a really nice jacket. I like it a lot. I would not associate you with that sort of clothing. Not that it matters, but it's just nice. And you're nice. It's like everything you wear is nice. Oh God, I'm digging myself a hole here. But why are you wearing it?
Keep digging, Karen. Keep digging.
Why why are you wearing? Is this the sort of clothes you would normally wear? Nice and relaxed and trendy is the wrong
Um,
word, isn't it? But hippified.
well, casual. I've always been a casual dresser. When I was working in an office, or even going to school in the uniform, I just didn't, uniforms, blazers, shirts, ties. Um, you know, uh, I could never have been a clergyman, with a dog collar. Good
Collar,
God.
yeah.
So no, it's the relaxed. I have to feel that my clothes fit loosely, don't tie me down. So there's certain environments that I just can't be in. Office. I know that there are dress down days, and things are getting a bit more relaxed, and people are working more and more from home anyway. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
clothing does play a massive part in how we see people. So if, for
yeah.
instance, you see somebody in a suit and with your title, or you call yourself the people's lawyer, which is great. So normally you think of a lawyer in a suit and shiny shoes and going to the city and meetings and all things like that, very official. Then if you think of somebody as a doctor in a white coat, and you automatically assume they are very good at what they are doing. If you go to a school with teachers, okay, my teacher, goodness me, he used to wear flip-flops and t-shirts and stuff like that. And he was a very interesting teacher, but he did lose his job ultimately. But clothes can determine a person's opinion or association. I think when you look at somebody, that's why I commented on your jacket. I've not seen you dress in something so casual before, but it has a massive bearing and influence on how we perceive people.
Uh, it probably shouldn't do, but
It
it
shouldn't,
does. I
no, but
agree
it
with
does,
you.
no, that, and I guess that is training, because we're going to talk about schooling and education, because that's kind of one of your passions, isn't it? And
Well, yes. The way my life has gone, I had an extensive schooling because I went to not just school but university, which is no big deal. Pretty much everyone does that
mm,
now. But it gives you, and you're on a conveyor belt, and on that conveyor belt, you don't really get to see the bigger picture. And when you get a glimpse of the bigger picture, you think, nah, no, that's not for now. I'll think about that later, because you just crack on. You've got this goal. It's all about goals, isn't it? Uh, Certificates, paperwork, approval, references. It's all, and the idea, just circling back to your idea about looks, how people look, the schooling system really trains us into only taking two things more seriously than others, which is how we look and and what credentials we have. So you've got the actual 3D look, and you've got the 2D credentials, the paper credentials. And when people like me, and it's still happening, obviously, because we're still fighting this world war, when we were out on the streets campaigning against COVID and against this, that, and the other, now we're just campaigning generally to promote freedom and against tyranny. We get challenged by the schooled, and we could give them all kinds of names. We've all been schooled, but the difference between some of us and some of them is that we are beginning to outgrow our schooling, and that's the whole point. And those who are still operating that schooling program will look at your yellow board, and the yellow board might say, there is no climate emergency, and it raises their hackles. And then they look at the small print, and it says that it's from this is a quote from a Nobel Prize winner called John Clauser, who's a physicist. And such is their credentialism and virtue signaling that they'll say things like, oh, he's just a physicist. He's not even a climatologist. You know, I mean, it's just, you can't win. And so the credentials not only have to be good, they have to be perfect, because, you know, it's these people, like I say, that have been schooled and are not transcending their schooling, are trapped in a mental construct. That's what the matrix is. It's a mental trap. And so you don't have to go anywhere. People who are sort of scouring the planet to escape the matrix, they're missing the point. The matrix is inside your head. And this is what, yes, I'm kind of circling back in different ways now. Yes, I am a lawyer, and you do expect lawyers to dress and sound a certain way. But the law that I operate is more the internal. It's the heart-centered. It's the moral code. It's the consciousness. It's not something that is handed down on pieces of paper, and certainly not on Crown copyright pieces of paper. But that's another day's work. And so we have to get back to basics, and basics is natural law and self-governance, which is known as sovereignty for the, you know, we all know about sovereignty, and we've all had our sovereignty thrust down our throats because we've inadvertently created contradiction in terms like sovereign citizen. There's no such thing as a sovereign citizen, because a citizen by definition is a slave. So I came across this word about 2 years ago, sovereign, which is a man or woman in a state of self-governance.
How do you spell that, David?
Say again.
How are you spelling that?
Well, if you operate it's a French word, so you could say it's SOUV apostrophe RAN, souverain.
Okay, souverain. Okay.
But I also spell it SUVERAN, su. Because if we're using French as the inspiration, then su means above, and sous means below. SOUS, for those who remember that. See, nobody's going to remember that from. That's the whole point of schooling. You're supposed to learn it and then forget it instantly. It's like trash learning. It's McDonald's, you know, it's Mac learning, you know? Eat it and then throw it up. Yeah?
Go. So I interrupted you because I wanted to make a note of souverain. Sur is on and sous is under. I remember a little bit of French. So yeah, tell me more. You came across this word, souverain. Has it got anything to do with sovereignty?
Yeah, well, it's now informing everything that I do. Because when you find the correct word, it changes things. Because our reality is defined by words. You know, even the Bible says, in the beginning was the word. I mean, yeah. If you're being a bit pedantic, you could say before the word, there has to be a thought, there has to be an intent, but let's not go there for now. But so we could say in the beginning of this 3D reality was the word, the sound, the frequency. So the idea of being sovereign or souverain is that you have dominion over self. And when I went into a shop in Wales during the COVID nonsense, and I was asked to put a mask, she said, excuse me, in Wales, you have to wear a mask, sir, she said. And I said, I can't do that. She said, why not? I said, because it's against the law. And this was 2 years before I discovered the word souverain. And that was enough to basically discharge her battery. And she just went, Meh. Right? And so we didn't continue the conversation, because when people are trapped in the matrix, and we can question whether they are organic humans with a soul or non-playing characters with no soul, leave that aside for the moment, but they are so hooked into the narrative that if you challenge it, in effect, you have unplugged them momentarily. And so they just collapse. So that was the end of that conversation. So, but knowing then what I know now, I would say I can't do that because I'm sovereign. Sovereigns make their own law that applies to themselves. So my law, excuse me, I can only apply to you upon notice. I have to give you reasonable notice of what my law is. You know, for example, if I live in a home I don't want visitors, I just say private by appointment only. That's a sovereign notice. If I'm offered an injection, which I wouldn't be offered anyway because I'm not registered with a GP, I would just say thank you, but no thank you. Because in my world, in my realm, which is, as Terry Robin, known as Robin Hood, says, realm is real me. In my real me jurisdiction, I am the alpha and omega, and I decide, I have total bodily autonomy. I decide what goes into my body, and that's it. So it's not even a medical issue. It's a consciousness issue. It's a reality issue. It's got nothing to do with medics or ethics. It's what goes into my body is the result of me having done my due diligence and decide. And if it's not an injection full of beautiful vitamins and minerals, then, you know, WTF, you know. But
a lot of people, I guess, starting from education, because we give away our power to somebody else, and it starts through education, the indoctrination kicks in. And we live like many people live their lives through that. They always expect, and whether it is your teacher or maybe your parent, to start within the kindergarten, and then school, then college and university, and then your employer. And when you've got a toothache, obviously you go to the dentist. If you've broken your arm, you go to the doctor. And we just entrust these people with our bodies in every which way. You go to a vicar or an imam or whatever, for religious reasons. We're always used to giving away our power because we've been trained to do that. And I think what you're saying here is we don't have to do that. We can take care of ourselves in every which way. You don't have to go to a church to talk to God, and you don't have to go to a doctor if you've got a tummy ache. You can do your own research and look after yourself, and maybe prevent yourself going to the doctor by how you look after yourself, so you don't have to go to the doctor unless you break a leg.
Well, if we are delegating our health into the hands and care of someone else, if we're delegating our spirituality into the care of a pastor, vicar, imam, rabbi, or whoever, if we are delegating anything to anybody else, I mean, dentistry is a bit more fraught. I mean, doing your own dentistry is not recommended. But interestingly, if you do your due diligence, you will find compassionate, holistic dentists who will treat you not just as a root canal or as a tooth, but they will treat you as a whole being. And so basically what I do is remind people that I ask them, I'm kind of mishmashing a few ideas because there's so much we could talk about. It's incredible. Basically, I ask them, what is the purpose of schooling? And I have three main answers. My primary answer is the schooling is designed to turn potential sovereigns in self-governance and total self-awareness into clones and slaves of the system with no self-awareness and total codependency on that system. That's the main purpose of schooling. And the subsidiary purpose is to make sure that those people with a certain amount of intelligence never get to apply it in a healthy, constructive way. So the intelligence is hijacked. So our creativity, imagination, our intelligence, our children are naturally social creatures, at ease socially. But by the time we come out, and I say we because it happened to me, by the time we come out of school, we are naturally antisocial. We are distrusting of the other because we've been competing with them for teacher and state approval for 10 to 15 years. They've pissed us off by getting better grades than us, or by being more popular than us, or whatever. There's always a reason why they've pissed us off. And so we come out with a certain degree of resentment, bitterness, negativity, and basically idiocy. I mean, I was at an interesting weekend just gone, which I'll sum up for you, Karen, because once upon a time you would have been at the hub of this, but in recent times you've kind of gone a bit more low profile. Otherwise, you'd have been a key figure in this.
I am coming back. I've been waiting.
Well, it's called mycelium, and it's grassroots.
Yeah.
It's a coming together, just as you did this about 3 years ago. It's a coming together of all the influencers and all the key groups, and we're building it. So when we're offline, I'll have a chat with you about it. We've just done a gig in Milton Keynes, which was awesome. And we're going to have another one at the end of November. But I digress. So schooling is, and I described during this weekend, the schooling it's the coalface of World War III. World War III, ladies and gentlemen, is not taking place in Israel or Ukraine or anywhere. It's not a geopolitical event. World War III is a consciousness event, and the way to get at human consciousness is to trap it while it's still at school. And that's how World War III is taking place. And so if you feel that your schooling is way back then you're being very naive, because you're carrying your schooling around with you. The World War against children has been conducted for 150 years. It's just been rolled out incrementally, and now it's hotting up. So children will be hypersexualized. They will be imprisoned. They will be data harvested. I'm getting ahead of myself because I know you wanted to come on to the crimes that are being committed.
Can I just say something here before I forget, and then I'll shut up, because people want to hear what you have to say. But it's very interesting what you're saying about what happens at school, because I can remember, and as I'm sure many people watching this, it would be like the teen games, when you were playing netball or hockey or football, and you'd have somebody would be chosen as the captain, and then you'd say, choose your team members, and all the best friends and the best players would be selected, and then you'll be ending up, the 1 or 2 overweight people or introverted people or people that you'd had an argument with. They'd all be left at the end to be selected, and that feeling as a child, I would have been one of those at some stage, is just insurmountable. You would feel so unwanted, unloved, uncared for, incapable, all the negative stuff. And it's taught, like you say, it's absolutely taught. Now, the other day, I have taken a back step from setting up the Freedom Network way back in 2020. I took a back step partly because I thought it had done what it was supposed to do at that time, bringing people together all over the world, hubs all over the world, hundreds of them, which was great. But then these hubs, these people within these communities started falling out with each other. And I thought, I can't do anything. They have to sort themselves out. We talk about do the inner work. Working with your shadow, we're all saying we'll love and light and hug everybody, which is great, but we all carry emotions and we have to deal with this. We have to process this. But the other day I was at a place not far from me, Chichester, West Sussex, with a friend, and she said she'd been to maybe one of these events you're talking about. She said, when you're going to do another conference? I said, oh, I'm not. I've done 14 of them and I'm not. I'm done. Other people are doing them now, so I'm just going to sit back and wait until I feel the calling. And then about 10 minutes later, this place that we were at, it was so beautiful. And I said to her, do you know, I'm going to do another event on the 13th of June. And she said, oh, I'm so pleased. I decided there and then. And the reason it's not the 30th of June, it's going to be the 4th of July, because of a clash on the 30th of June. But that's kind of my lucky date. But the reason, David,
is that 2026?
Yeah, next year, 2026.
I was going to say, because if it's 2025, then
it happened. Yeah. No, next year.
I'm caught in a time loop.
What is time? That's another subject. But the reason that I did that was because of the children. So in this area, and it's called the Green Door, and it's in Bosham, I think, just near Chichester, half an hour from me. It was a beautiful day. There was an outdoor space, but there's lots of indoor spaces they have as well. And under one tree, there were all these mothers with babies, and they were doing baby yoga. There were probably 20 mothers with these children doing baby yoga and touching and stretching, and it was lovely. Round the corner, under another tree, was another group of children, doing forest school, probably 20 or 30 children doing forest schooling. And then there was a place over there where there were a group doing Pilates or yoga or meditating. But it was the children that did it. I feel shivery as I say it, because I thought, great, the parents, they are the ones that have control until the children are 18 and you know, whatever. They're not your responsibility. Okay, going through teenage years is a bit challenging. I've got 3 kids of my own. They're all in their 20s now. But just seeing these parents, men and women, bringing their children to this outdoor space and bringing in this other form of education, I thought, right, this is what we need to do. We do need to teach the children because they don't know how to feed themselves or walk themselves. We're the only species that needs to be taught. All other animals, you know, as soon as the cow drops a calf, the calf will get up and walk and feed. We have to teach our children. But it was this space that made me think, okay, there is definitely hope, and it's all about the education. So I just thought I'd throw that in. So there is an event happening, and then I'll be quiet and listen to what you have to say, David.
Well, that can easily come into alignment with mycelium, because mycelium is all about solutions. It's all about transitional remedy within the system. In other words, because some people with the best will in the world, even if they're not trapped in the system, they're married to someone who is, or they are the mother or father or the son or daughter of someone who is. So, you know, it's all very well. You see, it's easy for me. I'm a lone wolf. I can step out whenever I like, and nobody's going to bat an eyelid. No one's even going to find out about it. But with other people who are embroiled or entrapped within a family environment or a more complex environment, it's not so easy. But so we have to take a kind of a rounded approach. We can't be too purist yet, because we haven't constructed yet the alternative to the matrix. It's under construction. It really is under construction. But while it's under construction, we are endeavoring to promote clarity, to mitigate loss. That's a technical legal phrase. Mitigate loss. Now, in other words, minimize damage limitation. What do I mean by that? Well, in the schooling context, it means if your boy and girl is in school, pull them out like yesterday. Now, I know that will upset some people to say, well, I'm a single parent this and I'm a single. Yes, fair enough. Okay. But if everyone took that approach, we won't build this alternative world. We need brave souls to say, okay, I'm going to look after my boy or girl and work at the same time. Because once children get to a certain age, they don't need any supervising. Once they get to 12, 13, you know, they're young people rather than children.
They need guidance.
So they don't. Yeah, and especially if they've got friends that they can join together with, they can go out into the world. And I'll know we're winning when I see teenagers in the streets doing stuff like cleaning the streets, helping old people across the road, doing errands, shopping for elderly people, you know, and not necessarily expecting a reward for it, apart from the satisfaction of doing it. But they will get rewarded. It's like, for those old enough to remember Bob a Job Week. So what we need is less children sitting restricted in a seat doing nothing of value, which is what academic means. Yeah, all that's right. And getting back into the real world. And my mission is really, when I wrote School No Place for Children, it was my response to how I had been treated as a sponsored peripatetic instructor that was going into schools to train teachers and pupils into learning a card game that gave them their autonomy back. And I would say 4,998 out of 5,000 kids loved it. So there's only 2 out of 5,000 didn't, roughly, maybe 10, but certainly 99% acceptance rate amongst the kids. Amongst the teachers, it was 1% acceptance rate, maybe 2%. So that just shows how creative and fun-loving, because it was a card game, so it's fun.
Yeah.
It just shows how naturally fun-loving boys and girls are, and how unnaturally non-fun-loving teachers are and can be, except in very rare exceptional cases. I just, as an aside, I went into one school and the teacher whispered to me, she said, David, don't tell anyone, please don't tell anyone, but I'm a Reiki practitioner, you know, and if anyone finds out at this school, I'll be sacked. This is what we're dealing with. We are, it's a bit like, you know, describing yourself as a witch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, we're still in medieval ages. We're still running this program of total non-acceptance of anything that is beyond or outside of our normal comfort zone. And so there are many reasons to pull your boy or girl out of school that they were catalogued mainly as psychological reasons in the book School No Place for Children. But since then, I've become the people's lawyer. And I've witnessed more, observed more. It's gone from horrendous to beyond horrendous now in schooling. So my next remit is to write a book called Schooling and Other Crimes Against Humanity, because it's not just psychological torture or torment that's being inflicted upon children, and something called menticide, which is the killing of the human spirit, which is not technically a crime, but though it should be. It probably more of a thought crime, and when those in the freedom movement would resent that. But anyway, so it's now a question of cataloguing the crimes that are being committed in the classroom, not just the dysfunctionality and the ruining of people's lives by confining them to a space, confining their thoughts, bullying them, punishing them. That's bad enough, and some of that can be a crime as well. So the fact that I've put my lawful hat on means that I'm not just observing sort of dysfunctionality, I'm actually going to the next level, and the aim is to put people off in an accelerated way. So because it's all hands on deck now, there's an emergency going on. We are threatened with some kind of World War III that they're labeling World War III, even though those of us who know that it's already taking place, and it's taking place mainly in the classroom. And just as an afterthought, I'm not saying that the only crimes against children and against humanity being committed are committed in the classroom. You could say that medicalized birth is a crime. Stealing the placenta and cutting the umbilical cord is a traumatizing crime, and it is. It's theft, and it's battery, and it's fraud. And then you've got dysfunctional parents, and whether they are psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists. So some children, even before they get to school, are already in a state of PTSD. So it's not just schooling. But the one thing that we can safely say is that if bad things happen in school, it affects all of us. And that's why I focus on school. I don't go hunting down criminal parents. I let other people do it. Social services can do that. So this is the system itself that's on trial, through people like me. It's the system itself. And, you know, I don't even want to talk about individual teachers or head teachers. They might feature if they are part of a cover-up. And if you think that they are part of a conspiracy, and there's enough of those knocking about, then they may well feature. But it's all about systemic harm, organized crime. And this is another, I mean, you could almost say it's hilarious. The government talk about organized crime, for example, organized trafficking crime, and pretend that it's the organized traffickers that bring in people called migrants on boats. But it's actually the government. And I use that analogy because people talk about sex crimes against kids, child abuse, and they put it in the press, and they make everyone think that it's awful, and it is. I'm not saying for 1 minute it's horrendous, it's beyond awful. But the point is that it's a distraction from the systemic abuse of children. All of us have been abused, without exceptions. And you only have to go, and this is harks back to the problems that you had within the freedom movement, the Freedom Network, Karen. It's made all of us hurt. We're hurting inside. And only a very, very small number of us are addressing that hurt. So when we come together, we are easily triggered. When we are faced with constable in the uniform, we're triggered into fear. When we are faced with a stethoscope and a white coat, we are triggered into compliance. So it's trigger, 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 trigger. And we have to face those facts and pull out the triggers. The easy part is doing the work. The hard part is realizing that it has to be done.
Yeah, exactly. Wise words. And I think that is a problem. And I think also in the freedom movement, from my experience as well, I was a bit naive because I just thought everybody that is on that wave of, oh my God, look what's happening to us, let's come together and make the world a better place. I just thought they're all coming from a place of love. And I realized they're not. They're not, because there is so much stuff that they need to do that to just sort out. They're either the victim or their ego, or they wanted the power, they wanted the control, they wanted the money. A lot of them wanted the money, which is not where we need to go in this fight, because it is a fight. And I found that very sad, especially when I was stabbed in the back by people that I thought were alongside me. I was working closely with them, and they stabbed me in the back, metaphorically speaking. And I just thought, wow. Then I realized it was happening. All the groups, people report to me. I was like the mother, he's done that and she's done that, and it's not fair. And I thought, wow, I can't sort this out. You all have to go and sort yourself out, really, and then come back and let's reconvene once you know that there are issues there. And I think the other thing, which also applies to the freedom movement, is we're all doing it voluntarily. If you were going to work in your suit or in or whatever you're wearing, doesn't matter. But if you were going to work and being paid, then you had to conform and do what they asked you of. Here, we were doing it for the greater good. And if somebody didn't like something or somebody, they would just walk away and then start up another group and another group. So this is, I think, has been a major problem. And I liken it to, when I talk about this, like when you're making bread, and bread or pastry, we're the fat lumps that are left behind. Those of us that are still here, it's like, we're sifting through. A lot of people have gone through the breadcrumbs, let's say. They've actually sifted through the sieve, and they've still got work to do. But there's a lot of us that are left. There are a lot of us left that still want to carry on and make this world a better place. But we still, I'll get triggered. I haven't got my angel wings yet. I'm still walking this land. So I know there will be things that will wind me up still. So I'm aware of it. And like you say, as long as you're aware of it, that's the start. Is that you then have to address it and do the work. And there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people that are helping, whether it be Reiki or whether it be PTSD experts or counselors or something. But you really need to go to people, I think, that are aware of what's happening, awake people, to take it to the next
tying
level.
up some loose ends there. So we've already named the main purpose of schooling is to turn potential sovereigns into slaves. Then the other purpose, which is more psycho-emotional, and is to turn children who naturally self-love into young people that will unnaturally self-loathe. And the freedom movement, well, society in general, is full of people full of self-loathing. So they're the ones that require the distractions, the medications, the alcohol, the sex, the drugs, the rock and roll, etc. Because the level of self-loathing is off the chart. And now, interestingly, during this mycelium weekend that we've just had, I made a little appeal to people. I said, look, what we're struggling with, and we're running the school program of self-loathing, is that we need to turn self-loathing into self-love. And I said to the audience, I said, that's the process that I'm working on for myself. And I said, if anyone wants to come and speak to me afterwards privately about it, then come and see me. And guess how many takers I had?
Go on. Oh, goodness gracious me. You haven't got like a few ones in the front of that, no?
No.
Oh.
Not one person came. Not one person even came up to me and said, "David, what do you mean? How are you working on self-love?" No one. It's so. We are on a very basic level. We're struggling. We're winning in some ways. The freedom movement, the movement of light and love, can't really lose because light can't lose. It just can't be. But it just has to galvanize itself into the correct state of consciousness and heart-centeredness. And that's what the schooling system has done, is put us back many decades. And we're playing catch up. And the other thing, going back to the problems that you had in TFN, is that it's as well as being full of self-loathing, we are easily triggered, which I've mentioned. And the other thing is that we replay the school program and we try to hop over other people, hop on their backs, use their work and to get. We want more recognition. We want more influence. We want more power. We want more, because that is what saved our sanity at school. Because we couldn't just sit there and contemplate ourselves into spiritual alignment, because you would have you'd have got medicated within 3 seconds if you did that. I went to a pretty good school in the sense that it was full of intelligent boys. It was a boys only, Manchester Grammar. I used to spend, even then, even in a reasonable school, where you hardly bullied, I used to spend hours just daydreaming, staring out of the window, and that got me into trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're not. My form tutor said, you're not going to pass any exams if you keep doing that.
No.
Whereas other cultures like the Japanese regard staring into the distance as a form of transcendent being. It's like you are contemplating the meaning of life. You're just tuning in. Whereas in this hectic, extroverted, mad, insane world we inhabit in the West, you're not tuning in at all. You're escaping.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Exactly.
What are you doing? What's the matter with you? Let me circle back to it's a word that you mentioned before, introverts. And so the third purpose of schooling, so the first one is turn sovereigns into slaves, is to turn self-loving into self-loathing. But the other purpose is to traumatize everybody, and in particular, the introverts who are not given a moment's respite. It's a schooling system that's only designed for extroverts. You are not given them. I had to, at Manchester Grammar, I had to take myself off, walk around. It was a huge school, and I could escape by just walking around the school talking to no one. Now, I am not that introverted. I am, probably a bit of both. But I was introverted enough to need to escape. And imagine that if I'd been, some people are completely introverted. They would have died a death at Manchester Grammar School. And some of them did, actually.
I'm sure.
So
Yeah. Well, I remember somebody saying to me many years ago when I was going through a bit of a rough time in my life emotionally, and they said happiness comes from within. And I thought, oh, whereas we are taught to want more, to crave more, to get the biggest, the better, the latest, whether it's clothes, whether it's trainers, whether it's technology, and it becomes very competitive. And like you say, we are not encouraged to go into stillness. And, Dolly Daydream I remember sitting next to kids and, they'd be, like you're saying, staring at the wall. Where's their mind? They're creating, they're somewhere else, they are transcending, and that is what it has been wiped out of them. And I think also, what was one of our prime ministers, did he not encourage people, once you've done your GCSEs or CSEs or GCE, what we used to call them, O levels, yeah. Then it would be, not everybody would go to college, and not everybody would certainly not go to university, but didn't Mr. Blair encourage everybody to go to university? So you're even trapped in the system longer, because then you'd spend all this time having a really good time at university, eating pizza and shoving the boxes underneath the bed, and then you'd come out with a huge debt and maybe not a job, and you might have spent 4 years learning something that would be useless to you anyway. So it's just another way of keeping us in control.
Well, this is something, I think I mentioned this in the book School No Place for Children, that mortarboard. Well, if I didn't, then I'm certainly going to mention it in the next book. The mortarboard, mort, again, back to French, mort, M-O-R-T, death.
Death.
So you place the mortarboard on your head, and you are accepting brain death. You are now officially brain dead. That's the degree. And it's only 1 degree. If you want a holistic view of the world, you need 360 degrees. So that would take you 1,000 years in their system to have a holistic view. Whereas you were born with a holistic view, it's just knocked out of you. So
Yeah.
and what we've found, one of the blessings, and there are many, 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 and I'll never tire of saying this, many, 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 many blessings of the COVID nonsense, which is still ongoing, but the sharp end, shall we say, was that it allowed us to see more clearly. 2020, it gave us 2020 vision. And one of the things it gave us clarity on is that those who have extended their schooling become unreachable to common sense or true rationality and true logic, because they're trapped in an academic world which is fake and based on presumption and somebody else's hearsay. Basically, textbook work is just an exercise in hearsay. Putting my lawful cap back on, when you're reading from a book, you're just engaging in hearsay. You're not having the real experience that will give you the real wisdom. So that's something that it was obvious. I had professors and lecturers and doctors and lawyers and teachers all talking utter nonsense because their organization had taught them that their nonsense was the only nonsense in town.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And I must actually just go back and when I say it's not a waste of time everybody going to university, because if you do know you want to be an engineer or a doctor or something, you know, where you have to be educated to get the tools, fine, go to university. But it's the people that have just gone for the ride. That's what I'm saying. It's a bit bonkers, in my opinion.
Well, I think you're being very lenient and tolerant there, Karen. I would say that university is I would only advise anyone going to university if they are already conscious and they have seen through the gaslighting and they are fluent in globalese. Now, it just so happens that I have a globalese lexicon to help people. And it's available for free on the website, thepeopleslawyeruk.com. And it's a bit frustrating because whenever I ask people, have you heard of the globalese lexicon? Everyone goes, no, what's that? So it's basically, because we've all heard of legalese, but not everybody has heard of globalese. And the globalists use their own language, and it sounds, and this is how evil operates, folks. Evil will not come knocking at your door threatening to beat the crap out of you if you don't comply. That is not how evil works. That's how violence works, but violence is not necessarily the same thing as evil. True evil works on persuading you that it is good and it is true. When you have been persuaded that wrong is right and that bad is good, then you are captured by evil. So there's some people, hopefully not too many, listening to this that are probably in some state of capture. And watching podcasts like this will help you to emancipate yourself. It's happened to all of us. I'm not preaching. I'm not doing this is not virtue signaling. I'm one by one plucking all the nonsense out of my own system. I can do it in an accelerated way now because you reach a tipping point where once you've got in certain knowledge, then you can really unpick all the other. I'm trying to think of an example of something that I held dear to be true. Well, all right, I'll think of it before the end of our session, Karen.
Okay,
but it's
so yeah. One of the other than just catching up, saying hi because I haven't seen you for a while. But one of the reasons I said let's have a chat is because you put something on the Freedom Network Telegram group. Saying this is an appeal for evidence of criminality in the schooling system, and you are embarking on the follow-up to School, No Place for Children, which was written from a psychological perspective. The working title for the book, for book 2, is Schooling and Other Crimes Against Humanity. You say it as you see it, David. I love it. From a legal law perspective.
If I say it as I didn't see it, I'd soon be found out, wouldn't I?
But I like it, being direct. It's good. And then you're
Well,
so this is the post that I'm just reading here. So you're asking for testimonies from parents, teachers, children that would show up the system in any one or more of the following ways. And here you go. So you're looking for people, and you say we've all suffered data abuse, false imprisonment, trespass, assault, battery, harassment, breach of your peace, discrimination, torture, criminal exploitation, sexual indecency, fraud, actual bodily harm, grievous bodily harm, administering noxious substances, cruel and inhumane treatment, criminal conspiracy. So this is what you have written. Of clarification, this is all about systematic abuse, not individual abuse by one psychopathic staff member, except where that abuse is covered up by the school. So this is what you're asking for. So if this resonates with any of you, and I think it probably should resonate with the majority of us, please send your testimony, ideally one side of an A4, maximum 300 words, an A4 sheet of paper, with any request for total anonymity. Your default credit will be the first name plus your initial or your last name. So that's how you would describe these people in your book. And another wake-up call is needed, and now is the time. Thanking you in advance. And so you can send this to David directly at info, and I'll put it on the bottom, info@thepeopleslawyeruk.com. Is that correct? Thepeopleslawyeruk.com.
Yeah, info@thepeopleslawyeruk.com, which is the email. I've not put this appeal on my website yet, which I should do, and I will do. So the idea is that 10 years ago, when I wrote, where are we? Okay. The idea of school being no place for children was more of a response to the way I had been treated as a sponsored tutor instructor in schools. And my eyes had been opened to how the education system is one of those fake systems that appear to be for social benefit, but in fact are socially destructive. Legal system, healthcare system, finance and banking, not biking, because I ride a bike myself, but all have this veneer of respectability, but lurking beneath is a very dark agenda. Now, that dark agenda was exposed to a large degree in the first book, School No Place for Children. And in fact, it was actually nothing new. It was exposed by an educationalist called Alexander Ingalls, spelt Inglis, who said that there were 6 main purposes of secondary schooling. And off the top of my head, it's uniformity. So, you've got to look and sound the same and do the same things. Conformity, you've got to comply. Class divide, form an elite, form a subset, and also get people to know their place within that structure. So that's the purpose of secondary schooling. Now, there was no mention of criminality. And there was a hint in that book that I wrote 10 years ago. It came out about 7 years ago. There was a hint of criminality when I mentioned the fact that some schooling is in breach of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. But having become the people's lawyer, my eyes have been opened to the criminality, which is the data harvesting. Virtually 100% of children now can only get into school using fingerprints or facial recognition. And when I put that to the Freedom Group over the weekend, they were shocked. So what it is what's going on in school. It's not only is it criminal, but it's unknown, because children are sworn to secrecy in many cases. So you've got data harvesting, you've got class charts app, you've got whereby teachers can snitch on their pupils and pre-warn other teachers of a child that's has divergent habits or divergent thinking. And what child doesn't? The whole point of childhood is to be divergent. That's the whole point. That's why when I was in school as someone teaching a card game, I celebrated divergence. Do it your own way. Oh, how should I do this? Doesn't matter how you do it. Do it your way. If it works, then your way is the best. If it doesn't, do it someone else's way. You know, so, and it's also come to my notice that in recent times that children are not being allowed to go to the toilet. They're not being allowed to drink, and they're going home with urinary tract infections. And that's why the word torture features on the list that you've just read out. Section 134, Criminal Justice Act 1988, torture. That's torture is when an official, and teachers are officials, they're civil servants, inflicts pain and suffering, severe pain and suffering on another person. That didn't feature in the first book. Another thing that didn't feature would be, let me just think. Let me look at the list. I know you've read it out, but I've got it here as an aid memoir. Let's have a look. Yeah, discrimination. Oh yeah, criminal exploit. Right, discriminatory. So if you are the boy or girl, son or daughter of free-thinking mums and dads, you will find yourself discriminated against, because it will be obvious to the teacher that you don't agree with everything the teacher is saying, that you're not prepared to be programmed to the narrative, and you will be given, at the very least, you'll be humiliated. That's the very least. So that's discrimination, direct or indirect. And then you've got criminal exploitation, which was not known to me, because the act that brought this in was 2015, and I'd already written most of the book by 2015. So what's criminal exploitation? It's not giving someone a choice. Now, if that doesn't resonate from your schooling, I don't know what would. Because everybody assumes that whatever the school teacher says, you don't have a choice. Well, that is that's an act of criminal exploitation. So let's define it. It's defined in section 3, subsection 5 of the Modern Slavery Act 2015. And for those people who think it only applies to schooling, you can apply it to HMRC, you can apply it to your council. So basically they are inducing a service using threats, force, or deception. The threats are obvious. If you don't do as you're told, you'll get extra work, you'll be isolated, you'll be punished in some way, humiliated, sent to the head. That's obvious. Threats, force, well, yes, you could be manhandled and literally pushed into a corner. And deception, well, since we know that most of what goes on in school is a deception, because they pretend so many things, you could easily argue that it's a deception. Their narrative is a deception. Their climate crisis narrative is a deception. Their killer virus narrative is a deception. So it all fits neatly into the section 1 as defined in section 3, subsection 5, Modern Slavery Act 2015. And that is on something called, that is written down, and you can hand it as on a card to people or young people who are still going into school. And I've been doing that for 2 years, and the feedback from the coalface is that it works. So they've got this, and I'll send you the link to the online version, Karen. It's called the School Protection Card, and it's got 4 remedies on it. Well, 3 remedies, and it's got the torture notice. So you're telling me I can't drink water or go to the toilet, miss? That's a criminal offense of torture, and the card will have it on it. You're telling me you give me an order or a request, miss? This is the first remedy. The first remedy is in commerce. So if it's a request, you teach the boy or girl to politely decline the request, whatever the request is, to sit over there rather than over there, to do some work on something that you don't want to do, etc., etc. If it's an order, then you hand them the back of the card or a piece of paper that's got the an invoice for compliance with an order from your mum or dad or caregiver. And people may scoff. Now, they've been scoffing for 2 years, but they're not scoffing now because this is working. The point is that schools are a branch of the bank. Courts are a branch of the bank. Everything is a branch of the bank, because if you're paid in banknotes, then you are in effect a banking employee. That means we all are. We are all, in effect, banking employees. None more so than the teacher. The teacher's only there to pay off the bank mortgage. So, and the students or pupils are referred to as units or the product. So this is an exercise in commerce. And the reason why they get upset when you don't attend is not ideological, it's financial, because every zero means less revenue. They want you to have a one against your name so they get more sponsorship from the banks. And zeros means less sponsorship and therefore less profit. They're run in effect for profit now. So you give them a remedy in commerce because they are an entity in commerce, and it's, is that a request? Yes. In that case, polite decline. If it's no, invoice. Now, if it escalates, then you can say, are you giving me an order? Are you giving me, is that a, order or request? Choice. So the next one is choice. So you're giving me no choice, miss or sir. That's when you invoke the Modern Slavery Act, because that is inducing a service through threats, force, or deception. So just summing up, order or request, invoice, choice or no choice, then it's modern slavery. And even if only one boy or girl does this, it reverberates out, because once the others can see that there are lawful and sensible and rational ways to stand up to tyranny, it will change the dynamic in the school. And a lot of teachers who have experienced the wrong end of this protection card have gone very quiet. They don't know. They think, they've never experienced anything like it, but it's a pushback at the coalface. The third, if it escalates beyond that, then you can hit them with Article 28 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is treatment of children in schools should respect human dignity. And if they're not respecting human dignity, that can make its way to the local press.
Brilliant.
And then you've got the torture. So on the 2025 version of the school protection card, you've also got the torture remedy written out, and it's making a difference. I've just handed out hundreds of cards to at this national meeting.
So can people get hold of these cards then? Can you send them to people? How do you get them?
I won't send them out individually. It's not cost effective. But if you belong to a group, I'll send them out to a group, minimum, say 25 at a time. So that's the way I've been doing it in the past. I'll need to get another supply in soon, but I've got enough. I've got a few hundred left. So if there's groups out there that want 25,
Fabulous.
40, 50, 60, yeah.
And do you want money for this? Do you want some postage or the cost of printing? Because it's expensive.
Cost of postage would be nice. A donation for postage, so there'll be, not essential.
No, but it will help, because then you can print more, and we can reach more people in what you're doing, because my hat goes off.
Yeah, to be fair to myself, I have spent it's now thousands of pounds on printing cards, not just the school card, but the grown-up version, which is the personal protection card.
Yeah.
For those who know about the personal protection card, I'm going to do a 2026 version that will be that you'll be able to recite to police officers. It's the one that talks about abuse of position.
Yeah,
but anyway, we're supposed to be talking about the kids.
Yeah.
Well,
we do need to wrap up in a bit, because we've been going for an hour, and I know we lose people, but so I think we need to wrap up. If there's anything more you want to say, David.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's a good idea to wrap up. So just to reiterate, some people will need an explanation of what I mean by some of those lawful and legal phrases. So what I will do is I will put some examples of what I mean on my website. So that's the best thing I can do with the website, and then put that across social media as a follow-up to that initial call to action. So yeah, we're not looking to zoom in on individual cases, but we're looking to make generic points that the system is broken. Whether it's deliberately broken or it's accidentally broken, we don't care. It's now the level of harm being committed upon children, and in effect the family, because if you harm the child, you're harming the family vicariously.
Yeah.
It's are now serious crimes, and it fits the globalist narrative to destroy the family unit and to destroy the current family unit and to destroy the future family unit, because these boys and girls that are now in school 10 years down the line, they are now the parents of young children. And if that young parent has been destroyed, then how can they pass on healthy narratives to their own kids? It can still be done, but it's much more difficult.
So just to end, my last question, if you can answer it briefly, I think you already have really. Why are they trying to, whoever they may be, or the system, what is the purpose of destroying the family unit?
Well, it's control. And there's a book written that's only 60 pages called The End of All Evil. And he spends 60 pages defining evil as control. You could say unnatural control, because sometimes control can have a healthy aspect to it, in managing something to prevent greater harm. But this is unnatural, anti-natural, anti-human control, which ultimately will be artificial intelligence controlling natural, organic beings with natural sovereignty, and cajoling them, enticing them, and training them, traumatizing them, triggering them into surrendering that sovereignty into control. And that is the big issue. And essentially, more than anything, it happens and it takes place in the schooling environment. And you only have to see most undergraduates now. You can see that they're controlled.
Yeah.
They are in effect our controlled opposition.
And I think you can see politically in every way, every which way. And what you're really doing is trying to nip it in the bud. And I think you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. David, it's been a real pleasure talking to you again. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you get some traction on this, and I'll put your website so if people want to get in touch, and I really do hope people do get in touch.
Can I just be a bit opportunistic? Please for people who would like to have an in-depth conversation with me about anything, I do consultations. If it's for humanitarian purposes, I won't charge. If it's to solve a legal lawful problem, I probably will charge. But if it's to further the movement, then I'll just take on board what you're telling me, and you can also, and ditto really for the courses that I run. If you want to upgrade yourselves to be in a better position to help your own offspring, then you could consider doing one of my courses. There are other courses, but since it's me here, I might as well promote my own.
Why not? So, Why not? Well, that's the purpose of my channel, Wise Women Weekdays. For those of you watching it, and if you haven't subscribed, I do urge you to, because then you'll get more information from people like David Adelman. And if you've got any comments, plonk them in there. I always read the comments, and if they're relevant to whoever I'm chatting with, I'll make sure that that person gets those comments as well. And what's the other thing? Like it, isn't it? Like, subscribe, and comment. I think that's what we're supposed to say. But I hope you do. And yeah, again, thank you so much, David. And hopefully our paths will cross in a physical way at one event somewhere along the line. Who knows what's around that corner? It's exciting times. Thank you very much.